Heathens, it's Liz, and I am back with part 3 of decks I really like but don't love yet. So we have quite a few decks to kind of go through today, and there's already a few that I have a feeling that I'm going to want to rehome. So let's get to it. So here we have my collection of Ciro Marchetti decks, including this one, the Gilded Tarot Royale. Now I had the Encore Tarot as well, but I had since rehomed that because I just don't need that many, and the art style didn't appeal to me as much as the Marchetti Tarot does. So we're going to get to take a look at these 3 plus the Gilded Tarot, and then we'll take a look at these. Okay, so here are the 3 tarots with the Oracle of Visions. This is the Gilded Tarot Royale, this is the Marchetti Tarot, this is the Tarot Grand Luxe, and of course the Oracle of Visions. Now, do I need 3 Ciro Marchetti tarots? Probably not. Do I like them all? Yes. Is the Oracle a good investment to pair with any of these? Absolutely. I really enjoy this Oracle. It just leaves so much to your intuition to pick up on. And since it's the same artwork, there's a lot of, little Easter eggs that are hidden within the artwork that kind of harken back to some of his older works. And I really, really love that. The Tarot Grand Luxe I purchased first, and then I got the Marchetti Tarot along with the Encore Tarot, which I have a full review of those 3 decks, the Grand Luxe, the Marchetti Tarot, and the Encore Tarot on my channel, and I'll link that in the description box. And then later on I got the Gilded Tarot Royale. Now the Gilded Tarot was my very first tarot ever, like the original Gilded Tarot. But since seeing that this one has come into existence, I kind of wanted to have it because it reminded me of when I first started with tarot. I don't really need it, but it's so cool, and there's just so many cool elements among all 3. The Marchetti Tarot right here is so vibrant, and the colors just pop. The cardstock is a bit shinier than the Tarot Grand Luxe or the Gilded Tarot Royale. This one is the thinnest in cardstock of all 3. These are produced by US Games. This is an indie version, and this is by, let's see, Llewellyn. And it shuffles really, really well. And I was thinking I would want to bring it with me, maybe like make another pouch and bring this one with me as my travel deck, because it kind of makes me remember when I first started and what an awesome experience it was to get into tarot at the time. I wish I had kept that one. I probably wouldn't rebuy it now because of the Gilded Tarot Royale having been out. It's just, in my opinion, a far more superior deck in its like imagery in the landscape. Like, look at that amazing like the background. You just can't beat that, and I just love it. So I will probably keep all 4 of these because there's something special about all of them, and I really like his artwork. And I don't know what else to say, but the fact that it appealed to me then and it appeals to me now. And I like that there's so much to dive into. So that is the Gilded Tarot Royale, Marchetti Tarot, Tarot Grand Luxe, and Oracle of Visions. Here we have the Gilded Reverie Lenormand and the Fin de Sickle Kipper. I have to admit, I have not really worked with this kipper yet, but I wanted to include it in this description. Decks I really like because of the fact that I have a pretty, well-rounded Ciro Marchetti collection, so I wanted to include it. Now I got this in a trade, and this one I purchased secondhand. So at least I'm not buying these like straight out. The Reverie is gilded in gold, and the Fin de Sickle is gilded in silver, which is pretty cool. Same card stock for the most part. Now, I am not as big of a fan. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little. I'm not as big of a fan of the Lenormand on the left. And I haven't worked well enough with the Fin de Sickle to know if it's going to read well for me as a fortune-telling element. I am curious about that because, what would I do with the imprisonment card or the sudden wealth? Those are very specific things that are going to happen. And I'm not the type to really do a lot of fortune telling because I like to consider tarot and oracles as more of a psychological tool to help understand oneself. So an attempt to divine the future for me personally is not territory upon which I'd like to tread, because I feel like, it has yet to come about, and I don't have the authority really to kind of tinker and ask those types of questions. I mean, it's not that it's territory that I'm afraid to go to, but I feel like the here and now is really where all the answers lie, not so much in the future. I feel like the answers lie within us, not within like external circumstances that have yet to come about. I hope that makes sense. So I will most likely be rehoming the Lenormand, and I will be working with the Fin de Sickle before I release the decks I plan to rehome series, so that I can have a better idea as to whether or not I want to keep this one. Next, we have a surprise. It is a blending of two decks that I have a full walkthrough on my channel. Can you guess what it is? It's the Revival Art Tarot 1 and 2, first and second edition, blended together. Now, on my channel, I have a walkthrough of both of these decks, and it was kind of also which card does it better, basically. Which deck do I like the depiction of best for that particular card? Let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look. This is, when you see the smaller print, that is the second edition. And I actually have 3 cards in here twice because I couldn't choose. I think I have the High Priestess, Justice, and the 8 of Swords in here twice. Everything else is just one. And I wasn't sure if I was going to rehome one of these, because when I was going through it last night, there were just so many cards in both of these decks that just resonated again with me. And some of these cards are just so stunningly beautiful. And I love historical art decks. And the meaning is so clear. And in my video, I said I favored the aces as angels in the second edition. I take it back. I still love them. I still feel that they're soft and lovely and wonderful. But I feel like these aces stand out more in the first edition with the big gold coin here, shield. And yeah, see, like here's the Ace of Cups. There's no people in it, and there's lots of gold. And I really think that that stands out enough that I want it to pop when I get an ace. So here's the second edition High Priestess. And I'm not sure if it's gonna pop up for us, but, and oh my gosh, I love this card so much. And I couldn't get over the hair of the kings in the first edition. So that's why I couldn't get rid of the second edition, because it gave me an option to change them. Like this guy, he's all right. He's better than the other king who has like even worse hair, but he's got a wonderful look on his face, and I dig him. Like I love this King of Swords in the second edition. And the King of Cups in the second edition, he's holding a cup. He looks warm and inviting. So this is the backing of the second edition, and this is the backing of the first edition. I had a hard time with this Two of Cups, deciding between the two, but I did it. And I chose the second edition Hanged Man versus the flogging of the first one, because this depicts more of a shared sacrifice, shared burden. It's less cruel, I guess you could say. The activity is less because the action is done, and it's powerful. So I'm still waiting on my Victorian Romantic, not my Victorian Romantic, my Victorian Tarot from Taroko Studios. And I'm really hoping that those borders are going to be good, because these two are also from Taroko Studios. So this is a blending of the Revival Art Tarot first and second edition. Next we have The Messages of Life and The Oracle of Angels by Mario Duguay, I believe you pronounce it. This one has been in my collection for years. However, do you remember when in one of my older videos, I told you that Rambo got a hold of my Tower of Transformation in another deck and chewed it up? This was the other one that he destroyed. So I had to replace this because I love the messages in here. And then there was a sale from Blue Angel. Yep. And I had to try this out. So I wanted to blend these two together. Let's have a look. This deck is one that I would draw like one a day in the morning in order to kind of get a message that I wanted to carry with me, and I would take a picture of it and put it on my phone, my wallpaper on my phone, so I would have it. And of course, being with the same artwork, I feel like the Oracle would add an additional layer, here are the backs, to the meaning on this card. And it really does. Look, crossing into the light, moving towards the light. Can the message be any clearer than that? The cardstock is a bit different. This one is shinier and super long, and this one is much more matte. And I really do enjoy these. I my channel is about kind of getting closer to the inner self, the divine, higher consciousness. And I really feel that these help deliver that message in a beautiful way. Trusting and fulfillment. Whenever you need a pick-me-up, and if you're okay with references to God, these are beautiful decks to use. The imagery is so soft and soothing, and you really feel connected to a higher source. Like no matter what's going on in life, it's all going to be okay. Deep down, everything is the way it should be, and in the end, everything will work itself out. Here is the card on the backs. And if you're like me and you want to grow in self-awareness, this is a beautiful deck to help you with that, because it connects you with what's most important. So this is the Messages of Life and the Oracle of Angels. Here we have some of my fantasy decks paired with the Soul Trees Oracle cards, which I don't believe I showed yet in any of my videos. I think I made mention of it to pair with my Guardian Tarot because of the tree element, but it really does pair well with these, and I wanted to display it because it is a great deck that I use for mainly springtime, but it really is an all-around use deck. So the Crystal Visions Tarot was one of the first decks that made me be like, oh my goodness, so beautiful. Oh, I love this so much. It made me ooh and ah over it. And I gotta say, I did a pretty good trim job, if you ask me, on this deck. Here are the backs. It's pretty, it's a great size now. Fits in the palm of my hand. It is really soft and beautiful and delivers warm, loving messages. I kind of go back and forth between wanting to keep it and wanting to rehome it. I think it is definitely one of those decks that makes me feel like it helps me relive that first fledgling year getting into tarot and how much it supported me then. The Soul Trees Oracle cards is so great. I mean, it's a huge oracle deck with wonderful keywords that can pair with anything. Look at the color palette. It's all over the place, and it really taps into color therapy and the energy that color offers. And I can use it with several of my decks, my tarots. Now, the Lost Forest, this is the first edition. I sold this one, assuming that the second edition was going to blow this one out of the water. And for some of you who have that deck might feel that it does, but not for me. I actually was able to repurchase this deck from the same individual who I sold it to. Miraculously enough, she was willing to sell it back to me for what I asked for, which is amazing. I mean, how often would that ever happen? I want to show you the backs of the Soul Trees and the Lost Forest, and it's got a kind of a cool like imprinting, inlay, whatever you want to call it. Now, there were certain cards that were changed in the Lost Forest that I didn't like as much as the first one. Mainly the aces, and there was I'll have to get it. I wish I had the second one just to compare it. because I did have it at one point, and then I rehomed it before I started making videos. The sun was changed. It wasn't as vibrant and as like burning energy, the sun. So these two pair well, and these two pair well. So I'm gonna have to take a long, hard look at the Crystal Visions Tarot to see if it's something that I want to keep. I'm definitely going to keep the Lost Forest because of that fantasy element. And I'm obviously going to keep the Soul Trees. So here we have the Crystal Visions, Soul Trees, and the Lost Forest First Edition. Now, along the same vein as fantasy, I have 3 decks here that are kind of otherworldly, and I definitely know that I will be rehoming one of them. The Intuitive Tarot by Ciro Marchetti, the Ellis deck, and Tarot Bot. I will have in the description box the the creator's name for these two. Now, I have several of Ciro Marchetti's decks, and I have another one I'm going to show you next. But I had to kind of go back and forth between these two. Their vibe is completely different. But when I want to reach for something that offers like a different plane of existence, I have my Danielle Noel decks that offer more of a celestial feeling, but these have a vibe of like another place, another culture, another people sort of thing that like have developed their own intelligence, their own lives on another planet, so to speak. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the Ciro Marchetti deck has figures that are not quite humanoid, and the Ellis deck, this is the 5th edition by the way, has figures that aren't human at all for the most part. And of course we have robots for the tarot deck, the Tarot Bot deck. Ciro's artwork is very evocative. She knows how to connect to emotion. She knows the lines to draw in order to depict the meaning in a succinct way. Let me show you the backs. Really cool. And here are the backs for the Ellis deck. It's got that glittery gold, but you know, I've used it several times that it doesn't come off anymore. And the Tarot Bot deck is a bit glossy, and it's got that shiny gold, which, look at these backs, it's cool. This is the 1st edition. Now there was another edition that came out with black borders. This is the borderless version. In the first Kickstarter, he had the borders were kind of like on and off, and they couldn't decide which one to go with, and then the majority of people wanted it borderless, but I think he as a creator preferred the borders, so that was what the 2nd edition came out as. And there's extra cards, which is really cool. So you can see like by the eyes, this was the first painting that she drew and painted of this deck was the Fool, and it kind of like led into the rest of the deck with this oval shape. And so it's like you are looking into a portal into another realm. And all of these decks create another world. Like you kind of, it brings you there, and it keeps you there throughout the entire deck. And I love that. They're all so amazingly cool. But the Tarot Bot deck, I actually wanted to rehome, but then I kind of was playing around with it with my son. We were doing readings, we were just picking cards and talking about them, and he doesn't want me to sell it, so I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it. And the reason why I wasn't sure if I wanted the Tarot Bot deck was because of the backgrounds didn't offer much in the way of intuition, like things like extra details in the cards for me to pick up on. The Ellis deck definitely does that, and so does the Silicon Way deck, the Intuitive Tarot. But as far as the vibe I get, this has got more of like a comic book vibe, a fun kind of vibe. Like, I love how like distressed this is. But I guess as I am getting older, I feel like I want to dive deeper into more profound meanings, and I'm less about the play within the artwork. I don't know if that's right, but I'm looking for like hard-hitting, like in your gut decks that really move me. And this one is fun, and so is this. It's fun. And I probably, again, wouldn't have kept this if it weren't for my son. But I have a feeling I'm going to be rehoming the Ellis deck, because I really do enjoy the guidebook as well for the Intuitive Tarot. And it's just weird and funky. They all are, but I really like the warped style of artwork that Scylla's been able to accomplish in the Intuitive Tarot. So what do you think? I mean, should I get rid of the Ellis deck? Do you have the Ellis deck? Do you find that it gives you like hard-hitting messages, if that's what you're looking for? Like, how does it read for you? I'm very curious to know. So this is the Intuitive Tarot, the Ellis deck, and the Tarot Bot deck. Next is the Shimmering Veil Tarot, also by Silicon Way. And this one I will be keeping in my collection as well. And I'm gonna also do a side-by-side just for a few cards with the Devas of Creation, so you can see how I use this as an oracle to accompany the Shimmering Veil Tarot. The Shimmering Veil Tarot is one of Scylla's decks that is very abstract. So you have the most abstract with the Devas of Creation, and by the way, she is coming out with a multi-dimensional Devas deck that's available for pre-order right now that I'll link in the description box. This is the first edition that is not gilded, which I don't mind at all, because I'm not a fan of shiny gilding if I can avoid it. But I love the abstract art. I love the evocative images, like this 4 of coins. Look at this green. Look at her like holding on. And you have this overarching entity. You know, is it good? Is it bad? She's holding on to the world. And here's like just like a sketchy, like taking your crayon and kind of going over it sideways for the 5 of Pentacles, where these figures are more to the forefront, more visible, and then everything else is kind of fuzzy. So the world is not tangible for them right now. But these two decks go so well together, and I really do enjoy Scylla's artwork. And I know my goal is to pare down my collection significantly, and trust me, I have a lot of decks that I will be showing in my decks I am going to rehome. But there's so much potency and power in Scylla's decks. Now, I was thinking about getting the Byzantine Tarot, but I'm still on the fence about that one, because I have other decks that I think I would reach for more often. I have done a reading for a friend with this deck that turned out to be very healing, very accurate, and I think this card actually came up. So you have the 10 of Pentacles. You have this motion through time of this evolution. Like, can you see that? Like single-celled organisms moving into just coming on land, and then into like bigger animals, and then people. That's amazing. So it goes everywhere. She's not shy about like putting a spotlight on certain elements of society. And look at this Six of Cups, this nostalgia looking back. It's just amazing. So we have the Shimmering Veil Tarot and to pair with the Devas of Creation. Next up, we have the Muse Tarot, the Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards, the Soul's Journey Lesson cards, and the Light Seers Tarot. What can I say? I love the packaging. I gotta admit, of these two decks. Love the cardstock, love everything about it. The Light Seers Tarot is a favorite of mine. I had the Kickstarter with the original Ten of Swords. If you can believe it, I rehomed it. I know how terrible and awful. But at the time, it was a decision that I had to make. And I realized that I was just keeping it just to keep it. And I was using the Light Seers Tarot, this one, the mass market edition, far more than my other one because I didn't want to damage it. And for me, that's not what I want to do with my collection, is just to keep it around for what? Like, if I'm going to do a reading for somebody, I'm going to use this one. So, and if it's about that one card, which I kept it for a long time specifically for that one card, because I felt that card should have never been changed. And I know I've talked about it before, but I took a picture of the card, and you know, if I ever want to see it again, I have it readily accessible. But I'm going to keep decks that I'm going to use, and that's about it. So let's take a look. So why am I showing you all four of these side by side? Because these two oracles pair beautifully with both of these decks. Now this one pairs well with other decks because of its simplicity and because of its range of color. I absolutely love the keywords. I feel like it really gets to like something within ourselves that we need to look at, a character quality or a trait, a feeling, an emotion, something that is that we have control over, that we can use. It's not external. So that's why I really enjoy this deck. This is like either a love it or hate it type of deck. This one pairs beautifully with this one, especially because of, I think, the artwork. So let's go through it. Now I want to show you my edging on these two decks. And I love it. I love that salmon color, but I gotta admit, the Muse Tarot is not really doing it for me. I went through it last night, and yes, there's lots of meaning there in the cards, but we're out of frame here. I just can't get over they're both body beautiful, but I feel like this one especially is like camera ready, you know, and that's not my style. So I will be rehoming the Muse Tarot. Now, as far as these two oracles, I just think that they're both beautiful and they both pair well with several decks. This also pairs well with my Mermaid Tarot. It's more of a grounding energy than a mermaid, is very watery, very emotion filled type of deck. Like, I don't know, these shoes, you know, I used to wear shoes like that and they effed up my feet. So like, that was a point in my life where I was shopping at Express all the time when I had money. Before kids, you know, and I was being all fashion forward and everything. I'm just past that point in my life now where I don't value that as much anymore. And by the way, the kings are all landscape. Like, I don't know, 3 of emotions. For me, that doesn't speak to me. It's beautiful. Like, I love that her hair and her eye makeup match her dress in the water, but it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't pull me, you know? And that's the whole point of doing these videos, is finding out what works, what feels like, what calls to you, what calls to me. Like, I don't know. And it's not doing it. It's not making me feel enough. It's beautiful, but that's it. And the light seers, there's no question that's staying in my collection. And I will be keeping these 2 oracles as well, because I don't have that many oracles in comparison to my tarot decks. So when I find oracles that go with several decks, I'm going to keep it. So here's the Muse Tarot, the Guardian Angels, Angels and Ancestors Oracle deck, the Soul's Journey lesson cards, and the Light Seers Tarot. In this category, we have the Texture Tarot, the Synchronicity Oracle, and the Compass Oracle. These are all my collage decks, and I have a couple other ones, but I wanted to kind of show these together because these 2 oracles I tend to pair with the Texture Tarot. So let's see if I need both. So I put the Texture Tarot in the center so that you can see how it pairs with the other oracles. The Texture Tarot and the Compass Oracle have somewhat similar cardstocks, not completely, but they're both very thick cardstock. Obviously this one's a lot smaller. This one is a standard or superior smooth, I want to say, from like Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio, that sort of thing. I actually like shuffling the Texture Tarot. I like the rounded borders. I like the size. I don't mind doing it overhand. Let's go ahead and take a look at the backs, because I always forget to show the backs until we're a couple cards in. I feel like the titles match really well. This is the first edition of the Synchronicity Oracle. I really do like the Texture Tarot, but I gotta admit, I don't reach for it that often. You know, and it's possible because in 2020, I literally bought the hell out of tarot decks everywhere. So it could be just that I had so many coming in that that's what was keeping me from using what I already had. Hence the point of this entire series is to stop freaking doing that. They're both great oracle decks. Now, the Texture Tarot is a workhorse for many people. I'd gotta admit, I like the keywords better in this little oracle, but this one is also so very pretty. Like, I love that she's underwater, and there's so much good to say about this deck, and it works so well intuitively. And I don't know why it just came to mind to compare this deck with the Starseeker Tarot. That's also collage. It's lavender. It's got like lots of blues and pinks and purples. But it almost has that same like choppy kind of feel to the artwork. So I don't know if that's something I need to look at as far as deciding if I want to keep them both. Like this Four of Cups, like her eye is black. It's quirky, it's fun. Now, which oracle, if you're looking, do you feel depicts the keyword better? like rooted. That's really cool. The King of Swords tends to be in the clouds, you know, tends to be really off strategizing and thinking versus incorporating practical elements. Here we have Synchronicity, Page of Cups, and Journey. The Page of Cups is on a journey, huh? Sometimes I don't really like the material, you know, that's incorporated here, and I'm not really sure what this red is all about. Is it supposed to be blood? Perhaps, maybe. It doesn't really feel like it's dripping, it just feels like it's there. Yeah, so I don't think this is a decision that I can make right now. I'm trying to think of what other decks either of these would go with. It really does go with very many decks. So this has really been a challenging effort, I gotta admit. It's been really challenging to kind of like decide, how am I going to take my collection and break it up into these little tidbits and these little sections, and how does this even make any sense? You know, and I guess it had to be, as far as feeling is concerned. Now, do I get an emotional hit from these decks as I do with my Marielle, for example? No, I don't. Is that something that, you know, that should guide me toward making a better decision? Do all of my decks have to hit me like that? Can some of them just be fun? Yeah, of course, because I have a lot and I plan on keeping a lot. But what occasion would I be drawn to even use the Textured Tarot over some of my other decks? Like, what is the draw? Just whenever? That remains to be seen. So here's the Synchronicity Oracle, the Textured Tarot, and the Compass Oracle. And our last deck for today is the Dark Mansion Tarot. Now, of course, I'm sure you've seen this deck, but I didn't include it with my last video talking about decks that I use seasonally, and it just didn't jump out at me as one that I do use seasonally, which I didn't actually use it this past October timeframe. This is a beloved deck by many people. This is the one with the rose petal finish, and it's got that matte gold on the sides. It's a super fun deck. This would be a great one to use around this time with kids or with younger people, because it really is fun, and it really does, again, bring you into that different world. Here's the shadow aspect of the Four of Pentacles, the miser. I mean, it's an entire world unto itself. And it is one that I did not rotate in this past Halloween, but I will next Halloween. It isn't really one that I reach for regularly, but it's inviting. Their eyes, the way they're drawn, it's a simple world, it feels like. You know, the artwork is stunning, but it makes things feel not so serious, like more lighthearted. And even though the messages are there, I gotta say, I love her. I love that she's holding that red wine and she's like a badass master of her domain, and these little like skeleton guys are just like chilling, like, hey, what's up? Love it. This moon card just gets me every time. Like, her face is the moon, right? And she's just staring at you, and she grabbed that river, and made it into a ribbon, like she's creating the path. So she's deciding, she's handing it to you, like, where are you going to go? How far are you going to take this message, or where are you going to go in your life? You have control. I don't know. It's just beautiful. And I'm kind of glad I didn't get the larger version, because even though it would really make the details pop, I would not be able to handle it well. It would be too big for my hands, and I wouldn't enjoy shuffling it. And I think that the tactile feel of tarot is so important. Like, if it bites into your hand, if it scratches you, if it's like so super thin or so super thick. Some people would probably say this is a bit on the thick side, but I really have no trouble shuffling it at all. So that is the Dark Mansion Tarot, and it will be staying in my collection. So I just did a reading with the Texture Tarot to kind of see if this is a deck that I wanted to keep in my collection. And the question that I asked was, where is this channel going? Should I continue to pursue this channel? Obviously, I do want to continue to create videos, but I wanted to get a feel for like the investment that one makes into something that they enjoy. You know, where is it going to lead? How is it going to fulfill me? And this is the reading that I got. So the undercard was the Two of Swords, and the undercard is usually the one that I see first, because the three cards that I have pulled out are overturned, so I can only see the back. So when I look at the reading for the first time, I got the Two of Swords. So there's definitely a decision, you know, inherent in the question, whether or not to continue to pursue the channel to its fullest, possibility, basically. And then I got the Two of Pentacles. So she's definitely juggling. She's balancing things that she's doing, her resources. The Three of Pentacles is about work. So there's a building of effort here in the initial stages, because it's not the Eight of Pentacles. And then I got the Seven of Pentacles, which is about putting in the effort. You know, these could be like all my videos, right? And then this guy with his little painter's palette is stepping back and looking at it, which this reading is amazing, because it's telling me the twos are all about choice, right? Choice of the mind, and how that's going to manifest in the real world, right? So she's also a fairy. So she's kind of ethereal, but also she could be a butterfly as well, which is about transformation. So possibly there's a lot of transformation that's possible for me and for, you know, the tarot community, if I have something valuable to contribute to it. So then the Three of Pentacles is about work. So put in the work. It's telling me to just trust the process, do what I need to do, and then wait and see. You know, once you've established a significant platform, step back and take a look at that point. So this is telling me that just go for it, do it, and, you know, the fruits of your labor will manifest itself in time with effort. So I'm going to keep this deck. I was wondering, after I did this video, I put all my other decks away, and then I was like, all right, let's do a reading and see if this deck can deliver. And it certainly did. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys again next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me today for part 3 of tarot decks I really like but don't love yet. Stay tuned for more videos. We'll be getting into decks I'm getting to know, decks that I really haven't worked with yet, that sort of thing. So those will be decks that I'm also feeling out to see if they were just impulse buys or something that I'm really interested in diving deeper into. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed, and have a great day. Bye. As always, thanks for watching, and if you found value in this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more tarot-related content like this. Ring that bell to be notified whenever I upload new stuff, and don't forget, to listen closely to the whispers of the heathen within that already has the answer and knows the path that's right for you. Until next time, be brave, be bold, be you. Bye.